The silver locket gleamed under the chandelier lights as Na-yeon's wrinkled hand stretched toward it.
This locket. Where did you get this locket? Please, you must tell me.
Her serving tray wobbling slightly in her grip, totally caught off guard by what was about to unfold. In that lavish hotel dining room in downtown Seoul, packed with high society guests, a simple $15 pendant was set to expose a secret that had haunted one of Korea's richest women for 25 years. Na-yeon didn't show feelings. The 78-year-old head of the Hanwol Group had built a massive conglomerate in electronics and real estate through sharp deals and a stone-hard attitude that scared off rivals and relatives alike. Her wavy silver hair was pinned back elegantly, her light gold gown shimmered with lace details. Oh, and her double-strand pearl necklace screamed old wealth and total power. She had lost a son, crushed business enemies, and never let anyone see her weak. Until now. The waitress, whose name tag said Lucinda, stood frozen as this mighty woman fixed her eyes on the plain silver chain around her neck. The heart-shaped locket had fancy floral engravings, nothing fancy, but Lucinda had kept it close her whole life. It was her only link to a past before endless foster homes and tough breaks. Her dark hair was pulled into a tight bun, her white shirt and black vest uniform crisp but worn from long shifts, her face showing a mix of confusion and worry with furrowed brows and wide eyes. "Ma'am, can I get your order?" Lucinda asked softly, fighting to keep calm. She had been at this upscale job for 8 months, yet scraping together cash for nursing classes. This gig meant the world to her. She couldn't risk blowing it over some old lady staring at her jewelry. But Na-yeon wasn't hearing it. Her gaze stayed glued to that locket, her face turning pale. Guests at other tables started glancing over. Murmurs spread through the room. Na-yeon was a big name in Seoul's elite circles. Folks knew her face, and right now she looked like she'd spotted a ghost from the past. "Please," Na-yeon said, her tone cracking.
Please, tell me where you got that necklace.
Welcome back to our story. Before we continue, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. We bring you captivating stories like this every single day. So let's continue. Lucinda shifted on her feet. Her boss, Mr. Kim, was already striding over, his face stiff with worry. Mr. Kim managed the place like a tight ship. He had drilled it into her when she started. Serve the rich quietly, with respect, and no fuss. "Is there a problem, Madam Na-yeon?" Mr. Kim said smoothly, stepping between the tycoon and his employee. "I am sorry for any trouble." "I must talk to her," Na-yeon replied, brushing him off. "Alone, if you don't mind." The room fell hush now. Utensils paused mid-air. Chats cut off. Na-yeon, famous for her calm and grace, was tearing up. Real tears rolled down her lined cheeks, messing up her light makeup. Lucinda's pulse raced. She had no clue what was going on. The locket had been with her since she was dumped as a baby in a fire station basket in Los Angeles. It was her only hint to who she might be, the only thing left by whoever ditched her. For 25 years, it dangled there, a reminder that she wasn't wanted. "Madam, maybe we can take this to the office," Mr. Kim offered, keeping his cool but firm. He didn't want drama. A few guests were already pulling out phones to film. Na-yeon rose quickly, her chair scraping the marble floor. She dug into her handbag and slapped down a wad of cash without looking. "For the bill," she told Mr. Kim. Then she faced Lucinda. "Please, I beg you, just 5 minutes." Lucinda eyed her boss. Mr. Kim's mouth tightened, but he gave a short nod. 5 minutes, in the back. The trek across the dining room felt endless. Then every stare followed them. Lucinda heard the gossip, felt the pressure. She was just staff. Na-yeon was like a queen. Whatever this was, it spelled trouble for her. The office was tiny and cluttered, stacked with papers and menus. Na-yeon shut the door and turned to Lucinda. Her hands shook. "That locket," she started, her words heavy with feeling. "I made it myself, 25 years ago, for my son's secret love." The air went thick. Lucinda felt dizzy. "I don't get it," she murmured. Na-yeon pulled out her phone with shaky fingers, flipping to a photo. She held it out. The picture showed a young man, handsome with kind eyes, smiling wide. And on a chain around a woman's neck in the shot, Wait, it was the same locket. His name was Min-jun, Na-yeon said gently. My son, my only boy. What happened to him? Lucinda asked. Na-yeon's expression broke. He died in a car crash 25 years ago, right after telling me about his hidden fiancée. She was pregnant. There were issues with the birth. They said the baby vanished, given up or lost in the system. I searched everywhere, spent fortunes on detectives, but nothing. The space felt tighter. Lucinda struggled for air. You're saying? I'm saying that locket was for his child, Na-yeon cut in, her voice firmer now. My grandchild. Lucinda's knees buckled. She dropped into a chair, her brain spinning. This couldn't be real. She was a nobody, shuffled through foster care till she turned 18. She wore secondhand stuff, ate cheap meals, worked endless hours for school, and all along she had a grandma, a family, an empire. I wasn't given up, Lucinda said at last. They found me in a basket at a fire station, just with this locket and a note saying, take care of her. Los Angeles general area, 25 years back, April 3rd. Na-yeon's hand flew to her lips. That's near where Min-jun's fiancée gave birth. April 3rd was the day. It clicked then, but the truth hit hard. Lucinda had dreamed up reasons for being left behind. Maybe a mom with no options, tough times. But this was darker. Someone hid you, Na-yeon whispered, her eyes widening. Someone made you disappear from us. Why? Lucinda cried, tears flowing now. Because you were the heir, Na-yeon said with bitterness. To everything I built. Min-jun wasn't wed, no other kids. You were my blood, my future. Someone saw a chance to steal that away. For power, for money. The weight of it slammed into Lucinda like a storm. She grew up broke and alone, while she should have had it all. And now, the puzzle pointed to betrayal. Na-yeon's eyes filled with tears, spilling over as the truth hit her fully. She stepped forward, her arms wrapping around Lucinda in a tight hug. Lucinda stood stiff at first, confused and overwhelmed, her mind still spinning from the words. This powerful woman, who moments ago seemed like a stranger, was holding her like she'd found a lost treasure. My granddaughter, Na-yeon whispered through sobs. You're my family. Lucinda patted her back awkwardly, not sure what to do. The hug felt real, warm in a way she hadn't known since her foster days. But the office door swung open then, and Mr. Kim poked his head in, his face red. Madam, your guests are waiting. Is everything okay? Na-yeon pulled back, wiping her eyes with a silk handkerchief from her purse. She nodded firmly. We're done here. Lucinda is coming with me. She took Lucinda's hand and led her out, back through the hushed dining room, where eyes still followed them. At the table, Na-yeon's family sat frozen, forks down, staring. There was her nephew Junho, a sharp-dressed man in his 40s with slicked-back hair and a fake smile that hid his ambition. Next to him, a couple of cousins and an aunt, all dressed in fancy clothes, whispering among themselves. They'd come for this family dinner to talk business, to butter up Na-yeon for favors. Now, they watched as she returned with the waitress in tow, her face streaked with tears. What is this? Junho stood up, his voice loud enough to echo. Auntie, are you all right? This girl, she must have stolen something. Look at her, grabbing your attention like that. Security. The others nodded, murmuring agreement. Yes. She looks suspicious, one cousin said. Probably lifted that necklace from somewhere. Lucinda's cheeks burned. She wanted to run, but Na-yeon's grip on her hand was strong. Enough! Na-yeon snapped, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. The room went silent again. This dinner is over. Everyone go home. She waved at the waiter for the check, then turned to Lucinda. You're coming with me, now. Junho's eyes narrowed, but he forced a concerned look. Auntie, you're not thinking straight. Let me help. I said it's over, Na-yeon repeated, her tone final. She tossed more cash on the table and pulled Lucinda toward the exit, leaving the family stunned and muttering behind them. Outside, a sleek black limo waited under the hotel lights. The driver opened the door, and Na-yeon slid in, motioning for Lucinda to follow. Lucinda hesitated, glancing back at the hotel. Her shift wasn't over, but something in Na-yeon's eyes made her get in. The door shut, and the car pulled away into the night. In the quiet of the limo, Na-yeon reached for the locket again, her fingers gentle this time. May I? Lucinda nodded, and Na-yeon unclasped it, opening the heart shape carefully. Inside, a faded photo stared back, a young man with a kind smile, his arm around a woman who looked a lot like Lucinda. That's Min-jun, Na-yeon said, her voice soft. My son. He was so full of life, always going against what I wanted. He fell in love with a woman from America, kept it secret because he knew I wouldn't approve. She was pregnant when he died in that accident. Lucinda leaned closer, her heart pounding. The man in the photo had eyes like hers, warm and dark. Oh, I was found with this as a baby, she said quietly, in a basket at a fire station. No note, just the locket and a blanket. I bounced around foster homes after that. Never knew where it came from. Na-yeon's face lit up with certainty. Min-jun tried to tell me about you, about the baby, right before the crash. He said he had a family starting, but I was too stubborn to listen. And now, you're here. You're the daughter he wanted me to know. The words hung heavy in the air. Lucinda touched the photo, a strange warmth spreading through her. For the first time, her past didn't feel like a blank page, but it also scared her. What did this mean? The limo wound through Seoul's bright streets, finally turning into a gated estate on a hill. The house was huge, like something from a movie, tall columns, gardens lit up, as servants waiting at the door. Lucinda stepped out, her waitress uniform feeling out of place against the grand stone steps. Inside, the halls were filled with art and fancy furniture, but the staff stared at her with raised eyebrows, whispering in Korean. Who is she? One maid muttered. Doesn't look like she belongs here. Lucinda felt small, her skin prickling under their judgmental looks. Na-yeon led her to a sitting room, waving for food to be brought. Soon, trays arrived with steaming bowls of bibimbap, kimchi, and bulgogi, traditional Korean dishes that smelled amazing, but looked foreign to Lucinda. Eat, Na-yeon urged, picking up chopsticks and showing her how. This is our food, your heritage. She tried to spoon some rice into Lucinda's bowl, but it came out awkward, like she was forcing a connection. Lucinda poked at the food, and her stomach in knots. I'm more used to burgers and fries, she admitted. This is nice, but overwhelming. Na-yeon nodded, trying to smile. We'll learn together. But behind them, Junho had arrived, slipping in quietly. He hugged Na-yeon, acting worried. Auntie, what happened? You scared us all. I'm fine now, Na-yeon said. This girl, she's family. Junho's eyes flicked to Lucinda, hiding his anger. Of course, I'll help however I can. But as soon as he stepped away, he pulled out his phone in a dark hallway and dialed a number. We have a problem, he whispered. Send a cleaner. Make it look like an accident. The next day, Na-yeon insisted on a DNA test. To prove it to everyone, she said. They went to a private lab where a technician swabbed their cheeks. Junho tagged along, smiling the whole time, but later, alone with the tech, he slipped him an envelope thick with cash. Make sure it's negative, he said coldly, or you'll regret it. Na-yeon paced her study back at the estate, waiting for the call. She felt alive for the first time in years, hope bubbling up. Lucinda, meanwhile, wandered the huge house, feeling like a fake. The fancy rooms, the servants calling her Miss. It didn't fit. She missed her tiny apartment, her normal life. I should go, she told Na-yeon one evening. I don't belong here. Wait for the results, Na-yeon pleaded. Please. When the report came, it hit like a punch. Negative. No match. Na-yeon stared at the paper, her world crumbling. How? She whispered, tears coming again. The family gathered, smirking. Junho shook his head sadly. Auntie, you're getting old. Senile, maybe. That girl was just a scam artist. The cousins laughed. Told you she was a thief. Lucinda stood there, humiliated, her eyes stinging. Na-yeon wouldn't look at her. Go, Na-yeon said finally, her voice broken. Just go. A driver took Lucinda back to her small apartment downtown. She slammed the door, sinking to the floor, heartbroken. For a moment, she'd almost had a family, a grandma, a history. Now it was gone, like everything else in her life. She yanked off the locket and tossed it aside, watching it skid across the floor. Lucinda stared at the locket lying on the cheap linoleum floor. Her chest felt hollow. She had almost believed it. almost let herself dream of having a real family. With a bitter laugh, she reached down to pick it up, but her fingers slipped. The locket fell again, harder this time, a cracking open along a thin seam she had never noticed before. She froze. Inside the back panel, hidden behind the faded photo of Min-jun, was a tiny inscription engraved in delicate Hangul characters. Lucinda's hands shook as she grabbed her phone and opened the translation app, holding the camera steady over the words. "To my love and our unborn star, Min-jun." The words hit her like lightning. Her breath caught. The date beside the inscription matched the year she was born. This wasn't just a locket her father had given his girlfriend. It was a message meant for her, the child they had called Star. The DNA test was wrong. It had to be fake. Someone had lied. Anger surged through her, replacing the heartbreak. Lucinda fastened the locket back around her neck, changed out of her old clothes into a simple black blouse and jeans, and stormed out of her tiny apartment. 30 minutes later, she stood at the gates of the Hanwol estate, eyes blazing. The security guard tried to stop her. "Miss, you can't—" "I'm not asking," Lucinda snapped. "Tell Madame Na-yeon that Lucinda Burke is here, and if she doesn't let me in, then I will stand here and scream until the whole neighborhood knows why." The guard hesitated, then made a call. Minutes later, the gates opened. Na-yeon was waiting in the grand sitting room, her face drawn and tired. When she saw Lucinda marching in, her eyes widened. "You came back?" Na-yeon asked quietly. Lucinda didn't waste a second. She unclasped the locket, opened the hidden compartment, and held it out. "Look at this." Na-yeon took it with trembling fingers. Her eyes scanned the inscription, and suddenly her legs buckled. She sank into the nearest chair, pressing a hand to her mouth. That is Min-jun's handwriting. I would know it anywhere. He called the baby his little star in every letter he wrote me before he died. Her voice cracked. The test was wrong, and someone inside this house made sure it came back negative. Lucinda nodded fiercely. "Then we find out who." Na-yeon's eyes hardened. For the first time in years, the cold iron will that built the Hanwol Empire returned in full force. "Yes," she said, "we do." The next few days, Na-yeon played her part perfectly. She acted frail, defeated, and confused. She called the family together and announced with tears in her eyes that she was too old and tired to continue. She would step down immediately and name Junho as the new chairman of the Hanwol Group. Junho could barely hide his joy. He hugged her, promising to take care of everything. That same night, feeling completely safe, he slipped into the private study to celebrate. He poured himself a drink and made a call on his encrypted phone. "It's done," he laughed to his henchman. While the old woman finally gave up. "I told you that fake DNA result would break her. And don't worry about the father. I handled Min-jun 25 years ago, just like I handled that American girl who carried his bastard. The baby should have disappeared forever. I paid good money to make sure of it." He took a long sip. "Now everything is mine." In the next room, Na-yeon sat perfectly still, listening to every word through a small baby monitor she had hidden inside the study lamp weeks earlier. Her face was stone. Lucinda stood beside her, fists clenched, as the confession played clearly through the speaker. The night of the annual Hanwol Gala arrived. The grand ballroom glittered with Korea's richest and most powerful people. Junho walked onto the stage with a proud smile, then ready to be crowned the new chairman in front of hundreds of cameras and guests. But as the announcer began to speak, Na-yeon appeared from the side entrance, not frail at all. She walked tall, dressed in an elegant ivory gown, and beside her, holding her arm, was Lucinda. Lucinda looked stunning. She wore a modern black evening dress with subtle traditional hanbok elements, delicate gold embroidery along the sleeves, and a graceful high collar that blended both worlds beautifully. Her hair was swept up elegantly, and the silver heart locket rested proudly against her chest. The room fell into shocked silence. Junho's smile vanished. "Security, remove that fraud." Na-yeon raised her hand. The lights dimmed slightly as her voice echoed through the speakers. "No, Junho, you are the fraud." She pressed a button. The audio from the baby monitor began to play, loud and crystal clear. Junho's own voice confessing to killing Min-jun, paying to have Lucinda's mother deported, and faking the DNA test. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. Junho's face turned ghostly white. He tried to run, but police officers were already moving onto the stage from both sides. They grabbed him roughly, snapping handcuffs around his wrists in front of the entire elite crowd. As Junho was dragged away, still screaming denials, Na-yeon turned to the microphone one last time. "Tonight, I present to you my true heir, my granddaughter, Lucinda M. Burke. She will serve as vice chair of the Han-Wool Foundation, where she will use our resources to build clinics and help those the system has forgotten." The room erupted in thunderous applause. Weeks later, on a quiet spring morning, Na-yeon and Lucinda walked slowly through a peaceful cemetery on the outskirts of Seoul. They stopped in front of Min-jun's grave. Na-yeon placed fresh flowers down, while Lucinda carefully laid a small bouquet beside them. For a long time, neither spoke. "I wasted so many years being angry and blind," Na-yeon finally said, her voice soft. "I lost my son, and I almost lost you too." Lucinda reached out and gently took her grandmother's hand. "We found each other now. That's what matters." Na-yeon smiled, a real peaceful smile, and squeezed her hand back. For the first time in 25 years, the weight on her heart finally lifted. Mother and son were gone, but their star had finally come home. The Han-Wool Foundation offices buzzed with activity. Lucinda sat behind a sleek glass desk, reviewing blueprints for the new community health clinic in Busan. She had traded her waitress uniform for tailored business suits, but the silver locket still hung around her neck, a constant reminder of where she came from. Her assistant knocked softly. "Miss Burke, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's urgent. She claims to be your mother." Lucinda's pen froze mid-signature. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "My mother?" The assistant nodded nervously. "She's American, late 40s, says her name is Sarah Burke." The room tilted. Lucinda had assumed her mother died during childbirth, just as Na-yeon had been told. But Junho's recorded confession mentioned having the woman deported, not killed. Could she have survived all these years, never knowing what happened to her baby? "Wan, send her in," Lucinda whispered, her voice barely audible. The door opened, and a woman with graying blonde hair and tear-stained eyes stepped inside. She wore a faded denim jacket and carried a worn backpack. Her hands trembled as she stared at Lucinda. "Lucy?" the woman breathed, using a nickname no one had called her in years. "My little Lucy?" Lucinda stood slowly, her legs shaking. How did you find me?" Sarah Burke pulled out a crumpled newspaper clipping from her jacket pocket. The photo from the Han-Wool Gala, showing Lucinda and Na-yeon together. "I've been searching for you every single day since they took you from me. I never gave you up, baby. I would never. They drugged me after the birth, and when I woke up, you were gone. They threatened to have me arrested if I ever came back to Korea. I was young, alone, terrified, but I never stopped looking." Tears streamed down both their faces. Lucinda moved around the desk, her emotions a whirlwind of shock, joy, and confusion. But just as she reached out to embrace the mother she'd never known, Sarah's expression changed. Her eyes darted past Lucinda to the window, overlooking the Seoul skyline. Her face went pale. "We need to leave, right now." "What? Why?" Sarah grabbed Lucinda's arm, her grip tight with fear. "Because Junho wasn't working alone, and the people he was working for, the ones who really wanted the Han-Wool Empire, they're not in prison. They're still out there. And now that you've taken what they wanted..." She glanced at the window again, her voice dropping to a terrified whisper. "They're coming for you." Before Lucinda could respond, the office window exploded inward in a shower of glass. Screams erupted from the hallway outside, and in the chaos, Lucinda saw a red laser dot dancing across her chest. The truth about family isn't found in blood alone, but in the courage to fight for those who belong to us, and the wisdom to recognize that second chances, no matter how late they arrive, are worth every battle we face to claim them. Throughout this story, we witness how pride, greed, and silence can destroy generations. Na-yeon's stubborn refusal to accept her son's choices cost her 25 years with her granddaughter. Lucinda grew up believing she was unwanted, when in reality, she was desperately sought. And between them stood people willing to commit terrible acts for power and money. But the story also shows us that it's never too late to choose differently. Na-yeon could have accepted the false DNA results and returned to her lonely existence. Lucinda could have walked away after being humiliated in front of the family. Instead, both women chose to fight, not with violence or revenge as their primary goal, but with truth as their weapon and love as their motivation. The real victory wasn't just exposing Junho or reclaiming an inheritance. It was two broken people finding the family they'd both been missing and choosing to build something better together. A foundation that would help others who'd been forgotten, just as Lucinda had been. When we face injustice, betrayal, or loss, we have a choice. Become bitter and closed off like Na-yeon once was, or use our pain as fuel to create change. The locket that could have remained a symbol of abandonment instead became the key that unlocked a family's future. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Right now, there are people in your life who need to hear this message. Maybe they're estranged from family, maybe they've given up hope on reconciliation, or maybe they're fighting battles alone and need to be reminded that truth and perseverance can still win. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Share this story with someone who needs hope today. Tag a friend, send it to a family member, post it in your group chat. Stories like this spread because people like you decide they matter enough to pass along. Comment below and tell me, where are you watching/reading from? What part of this story hit you the hardest? I read every single comment, and I want to say hello to you personally and hear your thoughts. Let's build a community of people who believe in second chances and family reconciliation. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button. If you want to see more stories that blend family drama, mystery, and powerful life lessons, your engagement tells me what content matters to you most. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Remember, the most powerful thing you can do today is choose connection over isolation, truth over comfort, and courage over fear. Na-yeon and Lucinda did it. Sarah fought for 25 years to find her daughter. What will you choose? Drop a comment right now and let me know you're part of this journey. I can't wait to hear from you.